You are listening to the Tricorder Transmissions, Episode 12. And now, here are Craig and Jeff.
Hi, and welcome to the 12th episode of the Tricorder Transmissions. I am your host, Jeff Hewlett.
And Craig Cohen, and this week we are wrapping up our coverage of the Menagerie with part 2.
All right. So before we jump into our episode coverage, I have some light news bits to share. Craig, what do you think?
Excellent. I'm always up for new Star Trek news.
Okay. So first one might have a little bit of a controversial tone to it. Not sure how you're going to feel about this one, but we mentioned that last week we mentioned that there was a comic book, a con-based comic book coming out. So the first issue was released on the 16th of October, just a couple of days ago, and it's based in the JJ reboot universe, and it's an origin story of Khan.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew you'd have a little chuckle at that one. So I was thinking to myself as I read this news, I haven't read the comic book, and I'm not sure if I intend to, but do you think this could be official canon? I don't know. I feel weird about this.
The thing is, shouldn't his origin be almost exactly the same as the origin that they put forward in the Space Seed episode and the Wrath of Khan movie? I mean, because
I guess,
or at least up until Space Seed, because it doesn't seem like the timeline was really affected.
Yeah, well, Space Seed technically didn't happen, right?
Khan was, well, yeah.
Yeah, the new.
But I mean, but his origin should be retained, because he was basically, frozen or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems strange to me, but maybe we can
sure,
buy into it. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, my thing with comic books in general and how they tie into their TV show or movie counterparts is if 90% or 95% of that show or movie's viewing audience isn't going to read the comic book, you can't really consider that canon, because at that point you're telling a story that nobody's really going to read.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, but I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but I mean, I guess I really should read it before making any judgment calls on it, but I'm a little skeptical. But anyway.
Sure, yeah, it's understandable.
So
okay.
There was a Shatner radio interview recently where he praises JJ's directing abilities and his new Trek direction. Just makes me wonder. I mean, people are naysaying and kicking around Into Darkness quite a bit, but if Kirk is okay with it, shouldn't we be? I don't know.
Sure,
what do you
but
think?
At the same time, William Shatner is still a working actor, so
Yeah, true, but
you don't know if he might even be talking up JJ to sort of fit himself into maybe a role in Star Wars Episode 7.
Well, perhaps, but now you've got Kirk and Spock both praising the movies.
Sure.
Nimoy himself has been pretty vocal about his love for the new films, and Zach Quinto specifically. So, if you got the two top dogs of the Star Trek original series universe saying they're good with these things, should we as fans be a little more lenient? I don't know.
Probably not. I think fans are entitled to their opinion.
Of course they are.
But I mean, if you look at the the consumer consensus on the two J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, they're two of the highest regarded in
Yep.
terms of, Rotten Tomato scores or whatever, out of the entire series. So,
Yep, they are.
those movies, they did what they did, and if nothing else, they created a lot of interesting discussions within the Trek fandom.
They certainly did. So one more of the rumor mill type news updates is that there are some conflicting reports on whether or not CBS is interested in a new TV series. So Orsi says that he has met with CBS about it, and Abrams claims that CBS isn't interested from two separate interviews. So take from that what you will.
I don't know. It seems like such a no-brainer here, especially with the success ABC's having with Agents of Shield, which is sort of a spin-off from all the Marvel Universe movies. With the popularity of Star Trek and these new movies, I don't know. It just seems like a weekly episodic show based somewhere in the Star Trek universe makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. It does. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while now that we'd love to see it happen, but I found it interesting that two of the current large names in the Trek universe, are having conflicting statements about this very thing. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and the funny thing about J.J. Abrams is he's always sort of, been very, very big on keeping things secret.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So who knows if this is some kind of misinformation tactic, or if he's just really not as invested now because he's sort of playing in this Star Wars sandbox.
Yeah, now he's like, well, hey, you know what? I used Star Trek as my sci-fi stepping stone, as it were, and here I am in the big leagues getting my turn at bat.
Yeah.
So all right. So that's enough of the JJ universe. So back here on Earth, so we've got a couple of new pieces of Trek merchandise available. One is there's a new set of T-shirts that have come out that are pretty ornate looking, from what I saw online. They're full shirt prints. So instead of it being just a solid color shirt with a graphic stuck on it, the graphics and images encompass the entire shirt from seam to seam. So you're wrapped around in Trek goodness. So I'll have a link to those in the show notes. They're on sale at a site called popfunk.com. And I'll have that link up for people who are listening to this. And
cool.
Yeah, they look pretty neat to me. I don't know if I would wear them. They're pretty, they look cool, but they're very outspoken, for garments. So, and there are also some new Trek posters out. One of them features the Enterprise in battle with a Klingon ship, and they're available on a site called byebyerobot.com.
Oh,
so that's
nice.
about
Well,
it for this week's news.
Yeah. Always looking for new stuff to put on the walls.
Yeah, there's looks like always a good flow of new pieces of merchandise coming out. So that about wraps the news part up. So are we ready to jump into air dates and episode rundowns?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So the Menagerie Part 2 aired on November 24th of 1966 originally, and the remaster aired on December 2nd of 2006.
All right. And I have the TV guide listing from November 19th of 1966, and it reads, conclusion of a two-part story. Science officer Spock conducts his defense against a mutiny charge. Using the weird communications method of the planet Talos 4, Spock offers a startling reenactment of his former commander's visit to the Forbidden World.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that. I love those TV guide write-ups, man.
Yeah, very, very neat.
Yeah, very good stuff. So we are ready to start up the second half of the Menagerie here in 3, 2, 1. All right, we're back with the Menagerie Part 2. Hopefully you just finished up listening to Part 1 and are joining us for our continued discussion into Part 2. We're not going to rehash a lot of what we talked about since both episodes are available now. And we're jumping right back in here, and we see Spock is in some serious trouble, as is Kirk. And they're being read some formal stuff by Commodore Mendez. Pike is still in attendance, but Now, Spock has seriously jeopardized Kirk's career with his plan here, which we still don't know all the details of, by the way. So we're jumping right back in with more footage being broadcast from
somewhere.
We don't know where yet. Well, we know where, but they don't know where yet. And there's old Captain Pike, and there's Spock 13 years ago approaching Talos 4. So, interesting part, a note about the Menagerie Part 2.
Okay.
This is one of only 3 episodes, aside from the pilots, one of only 3 episodes in which DeForest Kelley does not appear.
Interesting.
Along with What Are Little Girls Made Of and Errand of Mercy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Those are the 3 episodes, aside from the pilots, of course, which he wasn't cast in, that he does not appear in. So
yeah, wow. So
cool.
we've talked about all of those except for Errand of Mercy, which I guess it has to be later this season.
I think it's coming up.
Okay.
It's coming up. That's a great episode, too, by the way. Anyway, so back to the episode here. I think they've rehashed a little bit. They're rehashing a little bit here from the end of the little bit of a re-edit of the first episode to catch you up. Yeah. In case you, because back then it was a gap between the 2 episodes, so they were catching people up.
Yeah, and you didn't have the internet to go and read ahead, see what you missed last week.
Yep. So we're seeing Kirk is in some serious jeopardy here, and that will serve for the stinger for this episode. So we're getting our Space the Final Frontier lead in. So we got a little ways to go before we wrap up.
Oh, yeah.
And figure out what the real story is going on here. It's pretty intriguing, huh?
Yeah. Especially if, like us, you might have seen The Cage before you saw the Menagerie Parts 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. So you definitely are kind of wondering where they're going with it. Whereas, I think for a lot of viewers, it's the other way. They watched the Menagerie 1 and 2 and then watched The Cage. I actually think I actually watched the Menagerie
I saw
part of the
long
regular
before.
series and didn't actually see The Cage until quite recently, actually.
I saw The Cage when it was originally broadcast in 1988, I think. So here we are, the Menagerie Part 2. And we're jumping back in here with our shot of the Enterprise flying into the distance. And are we going to continue with this trial?
I think so.
We are, but I think there's some doubt going on here.
Yeah, I think they leave it up to Pike.
Yep.
At this point, Pike's saying, hey, this is the most action I've seen in months.
Yeah, I mean, I get to get out.
Look how excited he looks.
I'm out in space again. I didn't think I was ever going to get out in space again. I'm going to ride this until the ride comes to a halt. Yeah. So,
I think it's also interesting how they treated Pike in the reboot, the 2009 version. At the end of that first movie, he ended up in a chair, and it was only temporary.
Right.
It was kind of neat to see that they sort of...
yeah, that's one thing I really liked about the 2009 reboot and the Into Darkness, was that they took characters like Pike and Carol Marcus, who were, not characters who were prolific or characters who were in the majority of the series. Yeah. Pike is only in the Menagerie and the Cage, of course, but in TOS, he's only in the Menagerie. Yeah. And, Carol Marcus is only in Star Trek 2. But they still bring these characters into these movies and treat them with a level of respect, which I think is really cool. Yeah. And people... you may not have necessarily known, some of the younger people who were just getting into Star Trek with 2009 wouldn't really have known who Captain Pike was. Yeah. Because maybe they hadn't watched the Menagerie.
Yeah, actually, prior to starting up this podcast, I was brought in as a Star Trek expert, quote unquote, and not expert in my own opinion, but I was the closest thing to
that's okay.
A Star Trek authority that they could find. But I sat in on the wonderful Idle Chatter podcast.
That's a good show.
And we devoted the whole episode to talking about Captain Pike.
Wow.
So if you're looking for some kind of if you're looking for another great podcast to listen to, definitely search for Idle Chatter. It's kind of neat that they devote each week to basically a different topic.
Yep.
The week that Into Darkness came out, they talked about Star Trek, and John Carpenter's The Fog just came out on Blu-ray, so they talked about that recently.
So I listened to the episode that you were on, the Captain Pike episode, and I thought it was fascinating. You guys had a really great conversation, and I think even some Star Trek fans could learn a couple things from the episode, from the subject matter on that episode. So I think it's definitely worth a listen, and it's a good entry point. If you haven't listened to Idle Chatter before and you are a Star Trek fan, it's a good place to get your feet wet.
Yeah, cool.
So, back on, we're seeing footage from the Enterprise. Now, one would call into question how the Taelosians would have this footage. Mm-hmm. This is on board the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Captain Pike has already been captured by the Taelosians, and this is the crew of the Enterprise trying to figure out how to get him back. How would the Taelosians have this information? Mm-hmm.
This is one of those things that makes this episode kind of suspect in just how it's working from the technology end of things. Yeah, I mean, if they're able to document, stuff off planet, it's like, where does their power end?
I mean,
where does the reach of their power end?
Theoretically, I guess, I'm making excuses in my own mind, but then I'm second guessing them. You could say if the Taelosians have been in contact with Spock, organizing this whole return of Captain Pike, maybe Spock told them what had happened, and they were creating an illusion based on it. But I can't see Spock's recollection of this time on the ship being so detailed as they could create this elaborate of a recreation video illusion. To Spock say, okay, so number one said this, and then lean back in her chair slightly and to the left, and so here we are back in underneath the surface with the Taelosian people watching Captain Pike, and we're seeing some of this plot that they have, and up until this point, this does not look like a very enticing place to be. If I was Kirk or Mendez, I'd be wondering, why are we going to this planet where this horrible thing has happened to Captain Pike? They pretty much are keeping him locked in a cage.
Yeah.
And they're performing experiments, and you're seeing the actual experiments being performed on him. Mm-hmm. So they have to be wondering, what is Spock thinking? Mm-hmm. We're taking him back here?
Yeah.
Or are we taking the entire ship here? Mm-hmm. Are all the people on the Enterprise now going to be locked up in these cages?
Yeah.
So here's Susan Oliver.
Yeah, playing the damsel in distress.
Yep. And we're going to see a fight scene coming up here.
Yeah,
is really awesome.
Yeah. In the cage, there were a handful of references to different time periods.
And did you notice how the light of day seemed to change there? Mm-hmm. It was much brighter when they were actually in the scene, and then when they switched to the video screen, it got a little dimmer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were saying?
I was saying, I think the setup for that was in the cage. I think if memory serves, Pike has a handful of conversations with the Doctor and some other people about different time periods that sort of trigger these sort of fantasy scenarios.
Yeah, so they're reading things out of Pike's mind and then putting them into those projections. Mm-hmm. And I guess in this scenario, they're trying to see if he'll be the hero to save the damsel in distress from this Neanderthal barbarian-esque guy in it. Once again, I'll say, I think I said this in the previous episode, they must have spent a heck of a lot of money on this pilot. And you know what? It makes sense that they would use it again, because to build these sets and these costumes, I mean, granted, they could have found the costumes. Her costume could have been part of another show somewhere.
Yeah, Masterpiece Theater. Or
right. I mean, it could have been anything.
Playhouse, whatever.
They had to at least, if they didn't build the sets, they had to at least redress them.
Yeah.
Right? And all this stuff costs money to do. Mm-hmm. So all the time and the effort to edit this, and it makes a heck of a lot of sense that they want to reuse this. And there's that great mouthpiece that barbarian guy has. It's not an articulated mouthpiece, of course, so he can't actually open his mouth.
No.
All he can do is go.
It's like a mouth guard that you know, a boxer would wear.
Yeah. So here we go. Pike is going to duel this guy. He's got a mace versus an axe.
Yeah. See, it's funny. One of the main complaints against the Cage was that it was too cerebral. Yet you have a scene where two guys are fighting sort of, you know, gladiator style.
Yeah, this is pretty action-packed right here.
Yeah.
And he's pretty intense, that barbarian. Oh, he cut the spear in half.
You got a double team.
And Oliver gets in on the action. Vina is in on the action. And this poor Neanderthal goes out like a punk. And Pike falls. That's a heck of a fall, man.
Yeah.
Up. And he doesn't want to kill her.
Yeah. This is almost like a WWE style finish here.
Yeah, it is.
You got the distraction. The double team is going on. The ref says, break it up.
Boom.
Ooh,
right in the kidney.
Foreign object in the kidney area.
Yep. And watch this. And he totally telegraphs this. And he's going to jump down on him. And he doesn't see him readying the spearhead. And Susan Oliver is disgusted. Yeah. She's disgusted by this display of
the barbaric nature
brutality
of everything.
And death.
Mm-hmm.
Up. And they're back in the cage again. So she's changed her appearance yet again.
Yeah. And Susan Oliver had kind of an interesting career.
She did.
She died in 1990, but she is known as an American actress, television director, and aviator.
Really?
Yes. So she starred in a ton of TV shows. Adventures in Paradise, Twilight Zone, Route 66, Dr. Kildare, The Naked City. When she went on to her directing career, she directed the 1982 installment of MASH and 1983 entry of its sequel, Trapper John M.D.
Nice.
She also appeared on Magnum P.I., Murder, She Wrote, Simon and Simon, and Our House, and also an episode of Freddy's Nightmares, which was an anthology series based on the Nightmare on Elm Street series. But she was also in aviation.
Mm-hmm.
And she was... in 1970, she co-piloted a Piper Comanche to victory in the 2,760-mile transcontinental race known as the Powder Puff Derby.
Wow.
Which resulted in her being named Pilot of the Year. So she had a little bit of a career outside of Hollywood, which is kind of neat.
And one thing that I found really fascinating about her acting career was that I just happened to catch a Twilight Zone episode in which Susan Oliver appeared. And in that Twilight Zone episode, two astronauts from Earth crash land on a planet. One of them dies in the process. And the other one emerges from the crash wreckage to find a civilization of humanoid people there.
What?
Who, sounds kind of Star Trek-ish.
Yeah.
But Susan Oliver is one of them. And they wind up taking this crashed astronaut and putting him into a zoo on their planet with a sign that says, Earth creature. So it's very similar.
To the Cage.
To the Cage. Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool that she actually in that episode she seemed to be one of the dissenters who was not happy to see this happening to this poor guy, but was powerless to do anything about it.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So we've learned that the Taelosians have a bond with Pike and want him back. So now we're left to decide whether or not we think Spock is doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Taelosians noble in their desire to have Pike back? Can we trust them?
Mm-hmm.
After seeing what they're doing to Pike, in this footage here. I mean, are they? Do you think Spock is taking a risk by bringing Pike back there, or does he really truly believe that the Taelosians are on the up and up this time?
I think he believes they're on the up and up because basically the way things ended in the Cage indicates that they're truly not going to be prisoners. They have the ability to sort of break away. The thing that you think of towards the end of the Menagerie, though, is what benefit is it to the Taelosians to get Captain Pike, who is basically handicapped?
Yeah. Well, we'll also learn, I think they cut that out of the Menagerie too, but in the cage we find out that Vina herself is also in quite bad shape.
Yeah, in the cage, they recovered her from the wreckage, and they didn't have a human to
procreate with, yeah.
Yeah, or even to reference against.
Right.
So
I was thinking along the lines of repopulating.
Yeah, so they sort of assembled her without instructions, and it's almost like if you went to IKEA and put together a table and only ended up with 3 of the legs in the right spot.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Pretty rough.
So this is basically just repurposed footage from the cage where it shows them trying to break in before we learn that basically everything we're seeing is an illusion.
Yeah.
It's a deception based to distract us from reality, if you will.
That's a pretty awesome canon they have, too.
Yeah.
One wonders why they didn't use that in the rest of the series.
Mm-hmm.
It could have come in quite handy.
Yeah, well, it looks like there's a lot of prep involved. You need the goggles. You got to set it up.
Yeah, I guess. But it looks like it could be pretty useful.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out how to get Pike out, and there's a good shot of Majel.
Yeah. The future Mrs. Roddenberry.
Yep, in her original role as the second in command, the number one of the Enterprise, Captain Pike's number 1 officer. But in the actual series, she becomes the Nurse Chapel, who we've seen in other episodes before.
And, of course, the voice of the computer.
And the voice of the computer. And and she goes on to do other stuff in the Next Generation as well. She actually makes an appearance on an episode or two.
At lunch you were saying that she plays...
I think she plays Troy's mother in an episode. Yeah. It's a rough one. So, I think this is the point where Pike is starting to figure out what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to figure out a way to block them from reading his mind.
Yeah, he
Vina
determines
advises
that
against it. Yeah.
Yeah, if your thoughts are clouded with anger, they're not able to read your thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's basically how he prevents them from knowing his next move.
Yeah. So now knowing that, once again, I have to question whether or not life with the Taelosians is going to be that great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're going to be able to give Pike the illusion of a real life.
Mm-hmm.
He'll still be in the wheelchair somewhere in one of these rooms, right? One would think.
Yeah.
So for the rest of his days, however long that is, he's going to be kind of living in a dream, right?
Yeah.
So, I wonder, what are the Taelosians have to exert some sort of effort to make these projections, right?
You would think.
So are they going to dedicate all of their time to making Pike's life into a dream type illusion and not do anything themselves?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like there's much effort needed to create
possibly not
the illusions.
Possibly not.
But that's the one thing is how does this benefit them? Pike is really in his condition. He's basically an invalid.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All the benefits on Pike's side at this point.
Yeah. It's basically just a place where Pike can spend his final days, not aware of the horrible reality that he is in.
Granted, if the Taelosians are in fact completely noble in this, that is great. It's really cool of them.
Yeah.
That's a very gentle and kind alien race. So I would have to tip my hat to them, but just knowing their original motives, I would tend to think they had some sort of an ulterior plan. At least maybe they decided again, that they're going to attempt to repopulate using humans, and maybe they just want, they'll say, okay, Pike, your situation's a little different now, right?
Yeah.
Before you were an able-bodied guy, you're shooting around the stars as a captain. Now you're stuck in a wheelchair. Your quality of life is pretty bad. Now would you reconsider our original offer?
Yeah, but can he even give them what they need at this point. I mean, he's locked in that chair.
Well, I don't think he actually has to do the physical act. I mean, they can just suck the stuff out, and I mean, because Vina's not in any shape to do it either, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
but I mean, I don't even think Vina's in a position where she's fertile anymore.
Probably not.
I think the boat was completely missed on them.
Oh, look at the writhing in pain.
Pike
Actually, that almost equals up a Shatner performance, doesn't it?
Yeah. So they were basically giving him a peek of what the human version of hell looks like.
Yep. In some sort of liquid, sandy mess with fire all around you.
Yeah. So I think the one interesting thing here is the idea that in the 23rd century, the viewpoints on handicapped people and their value in society would not only have not changed, but probably gotten worse. Because here we're in a situation where Captain Pike is pretty much confined to a wheelchair, not able to speak, but he's still able to think and signify yes or no answers. So he has to have some value within Starfleet. But instead it's determined that he should be seated in a corner, and ultimately we'll just dump him off on this other planet and let aliens deal with him. I think for as sort of forward thinking as this show was, the viewpoint on you know, the validity. I just botched that word. Its viewpoint on the handicap seems just a little archaic to me.
Yeah, that and it's another one of those brain twisters. There are some things that they can cure instantly in the future. In Star Trek, and other things they can't do anything about. So, you know, this seems to be Pike's condition seems to be one of those things that they can't do a damn thing about. And they can't even give him a better communication mechanism than a light blinking yes or no, right? You would think that the least that they would be able to do is outfit him with some sort of a better communication medium. You would think.
Sure. I mean, look at where we are today with, Stephen Hawking.
He can talk through a computer simulated voice. And you would think they could do something like that with Pike. If they're able to translate his yeses and nos into lights blinking, they could go further with it. I think. But at any rate, here we are again in another illusion.
Yes.
Pike is now in dungarees.
Yes, and one of the things that we learned in the cage is that of all the character traits that Captain Pike and Captain Kirk share, one of those is a love of horses.
And they have real horses.
Yes.
That's not just a plastic horse. That is actually a real horse. Maybe from another set or another show.
And the one of the oddest things here is that William Shatner in his personal life is a horse fan.
So, and lobbied heavily to get horses into Generations. So
I believe he's got a charity too that he runs
and he
year.
He has horses in his home too. He has a stable and horses.
We both separately saw his one-man show. Shatner's World.
Really great show. Really glad I had a chance to see that on Broadway.
And he did a lot of dates for that. After it ran 5 weeks on Broadway or off Broadway.
About that,
and then he toured the country with it. Which was amazing. I remember there was a point where I looked a good 6 months after I had seen it, and I was like, whoa, he's up in, Oregon right now doing it. And I was like, wow, for a man in his 80s.
He can hustle. Yeah,
but there's a lot of stories he tells in Shatner's World about his love of horses. And I'm waiting for the eventual DVD or Blu-ray release.
I wouldn't be surprised
of that
if they
show.
did it. I'm sure they taped it.
You'd think they would have probably taped dozens of performances, and they're able to sort of put together
the best of. So one day I'm going to have to take a look at the cage again and count how many different hairstyles Susan Oliver has throughout the episode, because they wigged this woman up. Every scene, she's got a different hairstyle.
Yeah, the wig count it has to be high.
Yeah, and she's gonna come out as did they use the Orion girl footage in the Menagerie? I don't remember.
I believe.
'Cause I know there's a lot of stuff they cut out.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know what? We're gonna have to
wait and see.
Yeah, because unlike most of the other shows we do, I did not watch the Menagerie in prep for this recording because I had watched this episode a lot, and also we had talked about it for Idle Chatter, so I just didn't sit down and watch this again.
I had just watched this maybe, I don't know, month and a half, 2 months ago, because I had sat down and watched all of the remastered episodes. I hadn't seen all of them.
Yeah.
And I got the Blu-ray set of all 3 seasons and decided to sit down and watch. So I just watched this a couple of months back.
Yeah, you were actually just starting season 3, I think, when we sort of got together and decided to do this podcast.
Yeah,
so,
I was.
It's sort of like Al Pacino in Carlito's Way, where you're like, just when I thought I was out, Star Trek pulls me back in.
Yep.
Oh, no, and here we are.
Here
we're
we
going to see the... what Andorian, is that the race that she
Orion
plays?
She's
the
a
Orion slave girl.
Yeah. So this is, besides Mr. Spock, the Orion slave girl is the only thing aside from Spock that lives on after the pilot. Everything else was pretty much scrapped. So you do see another Orion girl in the original series. And you'll see one in the 2009 movie as well. I don't remember if there's one in Into Darkness or not.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. You might have seen one in a background shot somewhere. Yeah. But the Orion girl does come up again. I'm not sure the name of the episode, but it's another prison colony type episode where there's an Orion girl who plays a fairly major role in the... So look at Susan Oliver.
She's shaking it.
Is even a dancer.
Yeah.
So, what can't she do? She's an
aviator, a director, an actress,
dancer.
A dancer, yeah.
Pike can hardly contain himself. Supposedly, the mythos of the Orion slave girl is that they're irresistible to men, right? Mm-hmm. Is that men of all races or just human men?
I think probably all races.
Really? Even Spock, you think? Even Vulcans?
Well, I think Vulcans are a whole subset.
Look, they rewound the scene and they're watching her again. They're like, hey, Talos 4 control room, we missed that part. Could you roll this back again? No, just the part where she's dancing. I think we missed a really important plot point while she was dancing. Yeah, Pike's having a tough time with this one, even though he's got himself a hell of an outfit on.
Yeah.
That purple cape, I would love to have that purple cape. That would be a great Halloween costume. Wouldn't it?
Yes.
Tell me you wouldn't want to wear that? And look at that interesting Starfleet uniform this guy has. It's the first time I've really noticed that.
Yeah, it's got the Starfleet insignia.
It's got like a vest, like a brown vest. This is great. Pike he can't handle this, man. This is too much. He's breaking out. I'm out of here. You can take your dancing girl. There's another wig change.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder, I don't think we ever see her natural hair in this episode.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because she's got when they first get to Talos 4, she's got that kind of messed up hair, and then she's got that kind of princess sort of cut where it's, and then there's the long hair, and there's that curly hair she has in the gladiator scene, and now she's got the black gangly hair for this one. So, yep, and here she is. Mm-hmm. Now, that's body paint, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely body paint. That's not the Lou Ferrigno green body leotard suit thing, right? Because didn't he wear some sort of green
I always thought he was painted up.
Really? I thought he had like a green... bodysuit sort of thing.
I do remember as a kid watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and there was an episode where they went to the set of...
Really?
Yeah, of
the Hulk?
The Incredible Hulk, and they went through the whole process of Ferrigno
getting made up. So I thought at least part of it, like his legs or something, were covered by like green, like almost like stockings or something. Because if it was body paint, it always looked pretty good.
Yeah.
He's always well covered. Uh-oh. Look at the emotions from Spock.
Yeah, only...
What the hell? Only the females got transported down.
What was that? Your Hank Hill?
What did that sound? I never watched that show. Did I sound like Hank Hill?
You sounded a little like Hank Hill.
Oh, I thought maybe I was like the neighbor from Beavis and Butthead. What in the hell?
That's who Hank Hill was based on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite a Beavis and Butthead fan, but whoa, Pike, what are you doing?
He's looking for a phaser.
Yeah, and they don't work.
Yeah.
Now, amazingly, we're gonna find out that they do work.
Yeah. So
and he
actually
may have just taken somebody's head off.
Yeah, I think he actually just shot that other female crew member.
Yeah, he may have.
But they have this little compartment that they feed him through.
Yep, and he's gonna try to lure them in to grab the phasers out.
Yeah, that's the one thing, as this series progresses, there's these alien races that always think they can outsmart the captain of the Enterprise.
And you know what?
They can't.
They can't.
Because they're only going to run into the captain of the Enterprise once. The captain of the Enterprise runs into this every week.
Yeah. Over and over and over. So here's the quiz question for you. And I'm going to go, I'm going to take it to this level so that way you don't have to feel...
with these three?
I wasn't going to go quite that far.
Okay.
All right, well, now you're on. Now you're the one that took it to that level.
No,
I was going to say if you had the choice of the three, which one would you go for? I think I'd still go for Vina, personally.
Yeah. I think Miss Oliver is the way to go.
Definitely. But she's pissed.
Yeah.
She's pissed. You just went there. Marry, kill. If you want to try it.
No, I didn't think that's where you were going.
I wasn't
going to
go there, man.
So what was your question?
That was it. Which one would you pick out of the three if you were Pike at this point? I think we're in agreement on that. Although Mangel's not bad either, though.
She's they're all good looking.
A little more mature. But Pike is not concerned at this point.
Yeah.
Now this poor chick. Pike has a unique opportunity here. He could have changed this whole scenario around and been like, listen, I'll take all three of them.
Yeah.
Just, give me, why don't you make an illusion for me that I'm flying on the Enterprise? I won't know the difference.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's an awful small cage, though.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I think the cage more than the Menagerie, because the Menagerie almost contradicts the cage.
Yep.
In the sense that, man is not designed to be imprisoned.
Yep.
Or to live with the illusion of freedom.
Yep.
And they throw out all that out the window when Pike is no longer a virile.
Yep.
Member or man or productive member of society. Then it's okay to be.
Then he can go lay locked up.
Yeah.
But that's a theme that you're going to see quite a few times. Mm-hmm. Man is not to be caged and desires freedom. Kirk's going to utter those words quite a few times.
Yeah.
Over the series. Here's Pike's plan coming to fruition.
See, they're grabbing the phasers because they know that those secretly do cause harm.
Yep, and he's got the butthead alien. And Vina is again pleading with Pike not to do this because she doesn't. I don't think Vina has the same mental fortitude that Pike has.
Well, no,
she's scared.
She's grown up on that planet. Yeah. That's all she knows.
Yeah. So Pike, on the other hand, he's like, listen, I know this is fake.
I know this isn't a Gamorrean guard.
Yeah, you're a furry Gamorrean guard. I'll throw you in the Sarlacc pit. At least one of those goes in the Sarlacc pit, right? At least one of those Gamorrean guards.
I believe one of them falls in with. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Pike's not falling for this anymore.
No, Pike's pretty much figured out.
He's got this.
That they're basically an illusion-based race.
Yep. So the jig is almost up. But and now he's going to figure out that the phasers actually do work.
Yeah,
and there is actually a hole there. It's a pretty cool effect, though.
Yeah.
For back then.
Yeah, right.
As soon as he's going to stick the phaser right in its face.
And from that angle, though, he would take off their head and then also shoot number one.
Absolutely. She'd be toast. And what's her face on the side there might get some side effects. So, being that close to the phaser blast.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. She definitely gets some brain matter splattered on her. And Pike, for that matter, might too if that head explodes.
Yeah.
You don't know what's in there. Yep. And now they're climbing out. So, the jig is practically up. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to get back to the trial. Yep, we're back to the trial here. And I think, is this the point where they take a vote? I think we're almost at a point where they take a vote on Spock's guilt or innocence, right?
Yeah, we've got a good 15 minutes left in the episode.
Yeah, we've got some... the broadcast cut off here somehow. So Spock, I think he thinks he's been kind of hung out to dry by the Taelosians. Mm-hmm. And I think they there's a... And
So Gene Roddenberry wrote this episode. As I mentioned, it was only 64 pages long for the two episodes, because they used so much of the Cage script. But this went on to be an award winner, right?
Yep, this won a Hugo Award for, I think, Best Dramatic Presentation.
Mm-hmm. In, what, 67?
67,
yeah.
I believe, yep. Mm-hmm. So Star Trek got some accolades. I think I actually agree with that award, too. I think the way that this episode is presented is excellent. Mm-hmm. This is very well done. And, Pike just hung Spock out to dry with his guilty vote. Mm-hmm. And Spock is now apparently screwed. The plan has backfired.
Mm-hmm. He's been found guilty of basically treason.
Mutiny, treason, and violating General Order 7, right?
Yeah.
So now he's guilty on all three judges have found Spock guilty of violating General Order 7, and we are in deep crap. Mm-hmm. And Kirk is in trouble, too.
Yeah.
Yep. And we've arrived at Talos 4.
So at this point, I imagine people were like, hey, you know what? Spock was a good character. He was fun while he lasted. We had him for 12 weeks.
Yep.
I guess he's got another gig.
Yeah. Maybe he decided he doesn't want to be on the show anymore. And we're resuming the feed from Talos again. It's come back on. But surprising they're sitting here with this, even though after they've judged Spock guilty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And here they are bringing Vina and Pike and the two female crew members, number one, and they're bringing them back up to the surface to contact the ship. Mm-hmm. And we see that the cannon actually did all that damage.
Yeah.
And it was only an illusion. So we're going to get the little bit of a speech here from the Taelosians. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there you got the change in footage as well, which was interesting.
Yeah. So now we're actually supposedly we're now on Talos 4, witnessing this as viewers instead of seeing it on a screen as a projection.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty awesome necklace.
It is pretty cool.
It almost looks like it's got like a gem inside of it.
Yeah, you wonder if it had some sort of significance to them as the Taelosians, because I think they all wear that same thing, don't they?
Yeah.
And you see the phaser that has this adjustable ring on it to adjust the power level.
And he's pretty scared at this point.
Yeah, I think aren't they threatening to kill themselves?
Yeah. They're basically saying, "Hey, we're not we can't pawns
be caged,
to be played with."
Yeah, and this is one of those situations I think where if the alien species had just come forward and said something like this in the beginning, like, "Listen, we're a dying race, we need some help," I think Pike would have been like, "Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
we can help you out."
It probably wouldn't have been Pike though. It would have been
right.
Like,
it would have been. He would have. Maybe they put out the word through the crew. Does anybody want to come down and stay here for a few years?
They've already established that that's allowed.
Right. Or they could have called back to Starfleet and said, "Hey, Starfleet, we discovered this planet. The race is dying. Needs some help. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Can we help these people?" They don't wear the necklaces. I stand corrected.
Yeah. Although is that sort of against the Prime Directive?
I don't think if they ask for help, I don't think it is.
But then also, how is populating the planet with humans helpful? Because all they really want humans for is to do the heavy lifting that they can't do.
Potentially, yeah, I think. But I think didn't they evolve from humanoids into what they are now?
Yeah,
with their reliance on their brain power and their heads misshapen.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I really think that if the Taelosians had said to Pike, "Listen, we need a hand," Starfleet could have come in and helped out.
There might have been months and months of red tape to go through, though, paperwork to fill out.
Well, I don't know. We have no basis for trying to understand or saying what Starfleet, has as far as approval processes are concerned. But I would like to think that Starfleet they are noble. I would like to think that Starfleet would have been willing to lend the Taelosians a hand had they not calculated this elaborate ruse, and now they've wound up being the basis for General Order 7, and you're not allowed to visit or contact the Taelosians unless you're willing to risk death at the hands of Starfleet. So
it's interesting that this planet was never really sort of utilized again. It seems like it would have been a real easy sort of plot device or a scenario to go to when you're looking for movie inspiration or future episodes.
I was going to say that. I mean, look at the very few will likely argue that the success of Star Trek II, which is the recycled villain,
Space Seed,
they could have easily brought back other villains or races.
You could have even made like Pike the villain.
Potentially. Yeah, maybe after leaving him there, they turn him into something else, right?
Yeah.
That could have been kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like there was potential with the powers of the aliens and the overall way that planet was used, and now we are seeing Venus True.
Poor Vina.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Might be her worst wig yet, too.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'd like to think that maybe after seeing the other females, that maybe they studied what the other girls looked like and they could fix her up.
Yeah. I don't know.
She's in bad
after
shape,
15 years or whatever, the bones have to have settled.
Yeah, maybe.
And she's old, too. I mean...
Yeah. That sucks. I feel bad for her, man. That's a tough one. She's pretty mangled up.
Yeah.
But I guess the illusion is potent enough that I guess she can believe that it's real, that she can sort of fade into that fantasy of being the young and vibrant again, and I guess she doesn't feel the misshapenness of her body in the illusion.
Yeah.
It's strong enough in her brain to make all of that go away.
Yeah, from the way the illusion's explained, it's a complete. It's as good as reality.
Yeah. So you get, and they turn her back. That's nice. They give her that.
This is basically where they're presenting Pike with the option. They're saying, "Hey,
yeah, look, Pike. This is what's available to you." And also, there's a dual purpose here too, is to show Kirk and Mendez and the injured Pike. Look, this is what we can do for you. This is why Pike has been brought here. This is what the whole thing's about. We'll restore Pike to his former self.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting... I'll hold on to it for a couple minutes.
But that's pretty much where the footage from the cage, as flashback, is
yes.
done being utilized. The proper ending of the cage is now repurposed.
I was going to hold on to that.
Yeah, it's basically that's the moment where the cage to me becomes nothing more than curiosity piece.
Mm-hmm.
It basically it invalidates the cage.
Yeah, in essence, it does. So here we are. There's Kirk and is kind of pondering what's going on here. And we see that Mendez has been an illusion the entire time. Projected by the Taelosians.
So
now,
is there no Mendez?
Mendez is back on the starbase.
Yeah. So
he never left the starbase.
There's a real.
Yeah. So we'll find that out too. And now we're going to get some word from the Taelosians here. And we're going to find out what this whole big thing was about. Spock just wants to help his former captain regain some semblance of a life.
Yeah. And Pike's down with it.
Yeah. I think Pike is down with it.
They ultimately do give Pike the decision.
Yep. And I think he is a good option. I think I would probably choose it. Would you?
I'd hate to ever find myself in that situation.
Yeah, but
I think I'd probably go with the Pike's choice. Yeah. It's hard.
It's tough,
hard.
But
yeah.
I think for me, I think it would be far preferable to sitting in a 10x10 room.
Yeah.
In a wheelchair.
Yeah. I still think that Starfleet didn't utilize Pike the way they could have. I mean, he was a captain. I'm sure he had a lot to offer Starfleet. He could have taught.
Yeah. I think they put minimal effort into helping him regain some sort of functionality.
Yeah.
I think they could have done a lot more than just the wheelchair with a yes or no.
Mm-hmm. Which really plays into sort of the movie version where we get sort of an evil, vindictive.
Yep.
You dump me on this planet, Pike. But
maybe maybe Pike comes to realize the Taelosians are able to fix him up enough where he regains some mobility, and he decides, you know what? If these guys could do it, why couldn't Starfleet do it? They just kind of put in, my HMO medical plan really screwed me. So, and I guess because now that Mendez vanished, and he was an illusion the whole time, I guess we come to find out that Kirk never really was in jeopardy of losing his career. So he seems very quick to forgive Spock for all of this. Mm-hmm. But I guess since he never really was in danger of court-martial himself, maybe he's kind of rationalized that, well, all right, Spock seems kind of noble here. And, he did take over my ship, but, okay.
And now we flash to a live feed where they splice in the end of the cage. The cage originally ended with a fake Pike being left behind for Vina.
Right.
But here the fake Pike is the real Pike. And him and Vina go off into the sunset to have all kinds of fun.
And Kirk appears very happy.
So, okay. We made it through the Menagerie. We will treat this as a whole.
Yep,
parts the Star Trek movie, if you will, of part 1 and 2. Yep. And when we talk about the essential nature of it. And you look more prepared to discuss it than me, so why don't you take a stab at it?
All right. Well, this is a no-brainer for me. This is very essential for a lot of reasons. Character building for Spock, huge. Shows the depth of his loyalty can override the logical part, even though he may have been able to say this was the logical reason for taking Pike back. But there's still an undeniable emotional connection between Spock and his former captain. So it shows that he's capable of a more deep caring and bond for his friends and officers. He's willing to put his career and his life, a General Order 7 death penalty, on the line to help Pike to regain some semblance of a quality of life. It also provides some history on the Enterprise and what it was doing before the series began. It gives the audience some essential knowledge about the former captain and crew and ties Spock into the history of the Enterprise. So you're seeing what Spock was doing prior. excellent example of Kirk's capacity to forgive transgressions by his crew and his friends. So we'll see other episodes later on where people make some pretty bad, egregious mistakes, and Kirk's able to forgive them.
Yeah.
And overall, a great, dramatic Star Trek episode that really pulls you in and keeps you going up until the very, very end.
Yep. I think you basically hit on every point I would have eventually found myself at. So I agree with you. This is essential viewing. And that puts a bow on the Menagerie.
All right.
And that brings us to the end of another week. And we will see you next week for a brand new episode of the Tricorder Transmissions.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in as always. We'll see you soon.
Captain Pike has an illusion, and you have reality. May you find your way as pleasant.